Good morning. Say, this is Tom Fisher here, and I'm certainly glad that you're joining me here today. This is a little bit longer video, 49 minutes or less, but I'm providing this for those people that actually want to learn something, and you're willing to stick with it, because I talk throughout this whole thing giving advice and so on. If you don't want to learn, stop the movie right now. It's not something that's really quickly done. I don't. I'm doing this for benefit of those that want to learn how to paint, not just to be entertained. Now, I am going to make a lot of shorter videos because the attention span of the normal person is around 5 to 6 minutes, and they don't like to really wait. Typically, people don't. I know I'm kind of that way myself. I don't like to wait a long time, but I'm providing this information for those that are new, that want to learn, that want to excel at their paintings. And you don't get this in art school a lot of times. Alrighty then, let's begin.
Okay, this painting is of a couple of trees near a lake in Minnesota, of course. And we'll be starting right now. I have two trees in here. Notice that I've divided this between the trees not evenly, unevenly. Asymmetry, we always want to see things symmetrical, but the fact is nature is asymmetrical. When things are asymmetrical, they're more interesting than if they're symmetrical. So, we're going to start this. I'm going to throw in the darks first. So let's just throw in some darks. And what I've found out is you make it a little bit, especially in oil, make it darker. Than you really think it should be. And because the other paint you mix in and so on will lighten those colors, because it's easier to lighten the dark than it is to darken a light. Try to understand that point right there, what I've told you, because it's a very interesting but very true statement. It's a good idea to try to group your darks, and in this situation I can, and they are. Ultramarine blue, burnt umber, is my mix for this dark. Now, as opposed to, because I can lighten this dark, I'm going to do most of this in a kind of a dark, but it is lighter. So I'm adding a little bit of green gray to this. And I'm going to bring it down here. Shadows typically are, and especially if you're sunny, it's a complement of the sun source. Of the light source. Sun being warm, yellow, let's say, and the complement of yellow being, of course, blue. Okay, so blue added to the local color, which is darker green, will give you a pretty good blue added to the green. So I'm going to put green down. I'm going to add some blue, and we'll see what that looks like. It's a little bit too blue right at the moment, but I can always change that. So here's this dark grass here is also a dark. So let's put that in as a dark. Try to vary the outline of whatever you put down. Always have that change. Watch out that things are not equally spaced. Remember what I just told you about that. Make it in everything should be made to be interesting. Sometimes I will narrate these and sometimes not. So gotta stay tuned to find out which is which. Here's a tree here. I like the idea that it's there, and I'm putting it in. It adds interest. Also, it's kind of a stopping point. This kind of wants you to come off, but this kind of grabs your attention again, brings you back into the picture. Let's try some of that. Notice that it's out in open more, so not as much in the shade, so therefore get ambient light even in the shadows. So we have more of a yellow green, yellow blue green. So let's put that in. Okay, I'm not exactly following my reference. I typically don't follow it very much. So I might change some of that. Okay, so what I did is I grade that mixture and lightened it a little bit and put it in. Okay, now up in here it's pretty light green. Let's go to this dark here. I'm not done with that yet, so I'm going to allow it to touch and be hidden by it. Notice it touching and almost you get a hidden outline there. That picture shows this so far down here that it's coming in contact with this dark, and therefore I don't understand what's truly going on here. So I'm not going to bring it down that far. Not going to bring it down that far, and I want to see a little bit of this continue on. So the homes in the background and so on. So we'll do that. Okay, I'm just going to check to see that you're still on. Okay. All right. We're going to look at this offshore, which is going to be lighter. It's kind of a blue green, so we're going to get some greens. add a little bit of cerulean blue to it. I'm using I'm trying to figure out what green I'm using here, because it's not sap green, it's some light green mixed. You can get it by mixing, I believe. I just have it in the tube. When you mix the cad yellow or the lemon yellow or whatever you're using, and the cerulean blue, you'll get that green pretty closely. So, adding a little bit more blue and a little bit of white to it. Let's just put it in for right now. Probably not exactly what I want yet, but I'm just putting it in. Notice it's pretty light, so I'm putting it in pretty light. And I'm going to show some of it in here. Have a little bit here. Maybe a little bit here. Here. So we're just laying in some areas right now. Okay, now I'm going to hit this. I'm going to take that same green, add a bunch of yellow to it, and light. And I'm not mixing my colors totally because I'm an impressionist, right? So we're just going to put them down. See that? Look at that. Look at all that wonderfulness. That's from not mixing it. You get a drabness when you mix everything too much. You get a drabness. Then you have this other, it's hitting there with a kind of like a dappled effect here. We just leave that in there. Add a little bit of light, more light into this. Okay, I'm just going to put it in there. I mixed up a bunch. So I'm kind of going according to the terrain, right? And oh, I wanted to pull this up more, so I'm going to do that. Shorten this. Okay. Also, don't be afraid to widen that on the bottom here, because that tree has to stand up. Remember, there's a third of the tree is down into the ground. So you want to widen it out. It's going to, let's see, I'm just going to pull this down a little bit. Pull it out a little bit. All right. Just kind of dry brushing some of the same green onto that tree here. Okay, that's good for right now. All right, I'm still continuing on here. Notice that there's some, to me, there's leaves, that kind of stuff in there. I'm going to throw a little bit of orange in there, and kind of go with the flow on that, adding a little bit more of green texture down below a little bit darker, just a trifle darker than it is up here. Notice that there's a variance of greens here. Try to change those greens. Get some different greens in there, not such, you know, not all the same green or shade, tone, or value. You got to vary the tone, you vary the value, excuse me, and you vary the color, the hue. So far I've used the same brush for the whole thing. And I might for the whole thing, I don't know. I tend to do that. Okay, we're way in the back. We're going in the background now, so we add a little bit more white to it. It still seems to be out and open more, so I'm adding a little bit more yellow. Yellow comes forward, but the lightness is blue, so we're kind of counteracting it. And you know, color atmospherically will recede in the background as it goes back into the painting. That's notice that the value of this green right here is quite dark as it approaches the tree, and pretty closely, pretty dark right at its base. And that's what shadows do. They'll lighten as they leave the item that has cast the shadow. That's on cast shadows. Just adding a little bit of more excitement here. I've got Alizarin crimson and some burnt umber here. I don't know. It was something I had from another painting. So I'll just put some in here. And then I want to get some of that, all that green, I want to get some of that. And what's red to green? It's complement, right? So I want to get that complement in there. Okay, now I want to I see that we've got a darker reddish green, which is it's actually a warm. It's got a lot of red in it. It's got some burnt umber in it and so on. So we're just going to throw that in here. Allow some of that to see here. And add some, we'll add some. Okay, as we get closer here, gets greener looking. Local color is more light is hitting the top part more than the bottom. Like this blue-green is a little bit blue, so I'm going to warm it up just a little bit. And we lost that model effect right there, but that's okay. We just come in with a little higher value and put it in. Yes, love it. All right, let's this is like this, a tree trunk like this is very hard for people. They just don't understand that. It's a gray, right? If you can't describe it, if you wonder what the heck color is it, then it probably is a gray made up of all three primaries, right? I'm using a little bit, this is a green mixture. I'll be putting some green on here. And even if I left this green, just got the value right, it wouldn't matter. It would look fine. Because value is more important than color. I like to sometimes have accurate color, but it's not as important, is it? Nope. See how that tree once, it came up from the ground, and it's huge, and it's got weight, and it's in order to keep itself up. Unlike Hurricane Florence, if it wasn't for these trees being grounded, they'd all be down. Adding a little bit of red at the base here. Not that that is what you always do, but it's what I feel like I want to do. I see in that paint in this thing, I see some reds in here. I'm going to add some of that Alizarin crimson in there. Okay, and we got the lake back here, right? Okay. Now the lake, the horizon line is not necessarily the lake line. The horizon line is above the lake. Practically, as I see it, about right in here. When I put in a blue to represent that lake, I put it in very horizontally. If there's little coves in it, you brush that. Use your brush, but you can put a little cove in there, but you use a horizontal stroke. You will see much better success in achieving what people would say, oh, that's very realistic. The laundry's done. Okay, so I have to bring that. I'm going to have this lake as very horizontal stopping point here. And so this and this is quite different. This green. Let's make sure that I think what we want to do is just put a little idea of do that with some yellow and some little bit of dark along that edge right now. We'll worry about it later. Okay. Okay, here we are again. Going to the sky now. Take a bunch of white. The sun's coming from that way, so put a little bit of cad yellow into that, and I'm going to put that on this side because it's the side of the sun. So as I go that way, away from the sun, I'm adding a little bit more blue. Now, how do we do that? That gray. Blue gray. I have a blue gray. Which is actually kind of dark. So what I'm doing is when I'm pulling that down, as you're going around this corner, it's getting a little bit bluer. So I'm adding a little bit more blue to that mixture. I'm varying my pressure as I go. I should vary the greens and the gray a little bit too. Oh, it's only because this is kind of like a portrait of a tree that I'm going to this extent as far as okay, now there's some greens, mold or something on some of these areas. We're just going to trying to add some of those greens in there. These are much bigger area, bigger bigger, big textural areas here. More reddish. They seem to be more reddish here. Going adding some red in here, and there's some more ultramarine blue in here. Putting it kind of thick in here. More texturally. And then there's some it appears like there's adding some more ultramarine blue in this mixture here, and allowing that blue to read. This is the sunny side of the tree, so allow it to feel that way a little bit. So there's more darks back here and so on. Okay, I'm adding, bring some of the darks back in here again. There's some reds, some greens in here. So I'm putting some of those back in. There's a couple greens. Put those in there too. You see that I forgot. This seems to be a little bit wider here, so I better make sure that I I add some beef down below. There, looks much better. The main one crime that most beginners create their paintings is to not ensure that their trees always get smaller from base to top. I really want to add some more reds right in here, and I am. Adding some more blues in here to counteract with these warms. Actually, adding a lot of cerulean blue actually to this. Add a little bit of some blues back here, and looks like we could add some oranges back there. as the bark goes around, the crevices between the bark will become darker. Okay, I'm adding now some cast shadow. Across the tree. And we have some of this shadow cast. Here, I think that's what a lot of this is too. Let's see. I see this trunk. Looks like there could just possibly be a little bit of that tree trunk that probably this one right here. Have use that for a lead-in, sort of. Then you kind of caught in this. Well, I don't know. I think I screwed up and didn't have the last few minutes of this painting recorded. I thought it was recording, but it wasn't. So here's the final product. Apologize for that. Take it easy. Subscribe, like. Come back again. Bye.